Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Joe Palmer begins now.
Good evening, everyone. The state's new leader says his Liberal Party remains a united front after hitting the ground running on his first full day as Premier. Peter Gutwein today spruiking his key goals going forward, with some challenges already appearing.
Tasmania's new Premier beginning with an early start on day one, hitting the breakfast radio airwaves, telling listeners about the task ahead.
Yeah, what my challenge is to ensure that the growth in that economy, the opportunity it brings, can be grasped by more Tasmanians, and it's a matter of working out what are the bridges that we need to put in place that can help people.
Later appearing in a show of unity, with his deputy by his side, Annalise Archer, who was on the opposing leadership side with Michael Ferguson. He didn't join.
Our team is a very strong and united team.
We have a unified team standing behind me.
Day one, not without its political challenges. Labor opening the doors to a parliamentary party meeting in an effort to show its members are the ones that are united.
So while the government's clearly still in disunity and obviously divided, given the fact that there was a key member missing from their media conference today, the Labor Party's getting down to business. We're hard at work and focused on the people of Tasmania.
One focus for the new Premier, tackling the state's housing crisis and fast.
One of the key tasks that we'll be taking on as a government is to ensure that we can get more houses out of the ground sooner, and importantly more roofs over people's heads as quickly as possible.
We are not seeing the number of houses and the type of housing needed, and that's not just a Hobart issue. We know that in regional parts of Tasmania we are seeing an increased displacement of local people.
Another focus flagged as education, in a bid to increase jobs and productivity.
For all Tasmanians to benefit from the growing economy, we need them to be really skilled up, and that's where growing capacity in our communities is really important. So education runs really clearly in line with that.
Climate change, another.
We strongly recommend that a climate change portfolio be instituted and that this sits under the Premier of Tasmania. And we need the Premier of Tasmania to have oversight of climate policy.
I am currently the Environmental Minister. We're currently going through the review of the Climate Change, the Climate Act, and we'll have more to say on that soon.
Now, for more on this story, our reporter Ruby Kermain joins us now live. Ruby, good evening. Have we heard any more about a cabinet reshuffle?
Joe, the new Premier says that's still being worked out, but should be finalised by the end of the week. Obviously, Will Hodgman's portfolios, including tourism and trade, will have to be redistributed. We'll see if Peter Gutwein holds onto the Treasury portfolio that he knows so well. Another interesting thing to watch is if Michael Ferguson will get a cabinet promotion as a reward for him relinquishing his leadership ambitions yesterday.
And Ruby, when are we likely to see Will Hodgman's seat in Parliament filled?
Joe, we've heard more about the timeline for that from the Electoral Commission. It says the recount of votes in the electorate of Franklin will happen next Wednesday and the results should be confirmed the following day. Now, it's expected the Liberals' Nick Street, who lost his seat last election, will win that recount and return to Parliament. When that happens, he could also potentially take on a cabinet role or maybe a parliamentary secretary position. So, Joe, there's still a bit of a transition to get through.
There certainly is. Thank you very much for that report. Ruby Kermain joining us there. A Tasmanian coroner has criticised a WorkSafe investigation into the electrocution of a man at Pyngana in 2015. Guy Redmond Clark was killed while replacing a coffee machine at a cafe. His family finally have answers after years of waiting, but they want others to learn from the tragedy.
Chef, traveller, an absolute character, Guy Clark made his mark on the world and the people around him.
He had a busy life, yep, and we just wish he was still here.
In October 2015, the 56-year-old was removing a coffee machine at the Holy Cow Cafe in Pyngana. He was killed instantly when his hand touched a live terminal inside a glass washer. The wrongly wired machine wasn't protected by a safety switch. In his findings today, Coroner Simon Cooper said the switches save lives and could have saved Mr. Clark's. He recommended authorities now take steps to ensure they are installed at all workplaces, regardless of their age. a finding echoed by Mr Clark's brother.
I think is completely fair, because if that had been in place, my brother might still be alive.
WorkSafe Tasmania was also criticised for a partly inadequate investigation. Incomplete files given to the court also delayed the coronial inquiry. But the coroner rejected claims that emergency services took too long to arrive at the scene or the police did not know how to use a defibrillator. The family wants others to read the report and learn from the tragedy.
People that go to work in the morning should be able to go home at night.
Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
The government has declared an extreme dry policy for water resources and rivers in the state's northeast. Farmers will now be given greater flexibility to trade river allocations. The measure is designed to protect water for agricultural use during low rainfall and river flows. More information is available on the department website. The fire service issued a watch and act alert for a bushfire burning to the northeast of the Railton township around 1 o'clock this afternoon. Police closed tracks in the area, with authorities particularly concerned about bike riders and other visitors. The fire has since been downgraded to advice level. A bushfire busting beast is en route from Tasmania to country Victoria, following an SOS for our prized piece of equipment. The truck carries compressed air foam to stop blazes in their tracks and is among only a handful available in the southern part of the country.
A slight delay to today's photo op proves just how in demand this truck is. Only hours before it was due to depart the state, it was sent to the fire in Railton. Tomorrow, it will be in Victoria, protecting critical infrastructure.
A 15-acre fire over in Gippsland. It's a peat fire.
The unit has been a valuable tool in recent years. Here it is in action in Georgetown. 3 locals are also heading over to help.
This is my first deployment interstate. I've done a few campaigns in Tasmania, but this is my first deployment and looking forward to it.
The truck has an enormous capacity, capable of carrying more than 8,000 litres of water and 200 litres of foam. It'll be used almost around the clock during its 7-day deployment. It also has what's called a pump and roll capability, meaning it can spray solution on the move.
Very efficient to cover a large area. We can do up to 1.5 kilometre foam edge. So it's quite a good, unique feature to the truck.
Just another way Tasmania is helping combat a national crisis. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
Authorities are warning people, and particularly pet owners, to be on alert for a dangerous animal. Glenorchy City Council says Pepper, a female light brown Staffordshire cross, was declared a dangerous dog after a serious attack on another pet. The council says it was impounded after being found roaming the streets of Lutana, but it's recently been stolen. Authorities say they're unaware of its current whereabouts, urging people not to approach it. Anyone with information should contact Crime Stoppers. A Tasmanian brewery has suspended beer production for a day, instead switching to producing thousands of cans of water. The initiative is part of Cascade's Bushfire relief program, with the product to be sent to communities in need.
Beer supply off, water supply on. This production line holds thousands of cans, today packed with a different liquid lifesaver.
For communities that are in need, whether that's through contaminated water, through bushfires, floods or other natural disasters.
There's 120,000 cans being produced here today, the majority of them earmarked for bushfire affected areas.
We have water, which is a critical part of our brewing process. We have the canning capabilities and we have the transport networks to make something like this work.
The initiative is part of Carlton United Brewery's disaster relief program. This is the 3rd relief run undertaken here at Cascade, with cans previously donated to New South Wales and Queensland. It does prove to be logistically challenging though.
Contrary to what you might think, it's actually a lot harder to put water in a can than it is to put beer in a can. The cans end up quite soft and it's a bit harder to get them through the machines.
But it's worth it.
There's a really positive vibe from the operators on the floor. Everybody's really happy to be a part of the exercise to be able to help out these communities.
But beer consumers can rest assured there's no threat to Tasmania's beer supply.
We've been planning this for weeks to make sure that the beer supply is definitely assured.
Louise Hedger, 7 Tasmania News.
If you live in one Tasmanian suburb, a shocking new study has found your life expectancy is worse than North Korea, India and PNG. Health professionals say they're not surprised and are calling for an increased focus on supporting our most vulnerable.
This is the community social services and health experts say urgently needs more attention, with new statistics revealing the health of Bridgewater and Gagebrook residents as the worst in Tasmania.
I think all Tasmanians should be absolutely appalled because a system failure has caused them not to be able to access the care they need.
One disturbing finding, the median age of death in Bridgewater and Gagebrook is just 66 years of age. That's younger than the life expectancy in some developing countries, including PNG.
It is a concern. The rates in that area have been high for many things.
In those communities, more than a third are smokers and almost 60% are classed as obese. Those outcomes among the worst in Australia, comparable with Australia's most vulnerable Indigenous communities.
And that's because of the regionality of our population, the relative age of our population, but most importantly the social and economic disadvantage, which is far higher here than in any other state or territory.
Prompting renewed calls for a long-term national health approach.
We have 3 and 4 year governments, we have 3 and 4 year approaches.
At the end of the day, ensuring that Tasmanians can receive services where they need in terms of things like GPs and bulk billing is obviously a part of the conversation as we work our way forward.
The average age of death in Newtown, just 20 kilometres away, is almost 2 decades higher at 85. A stark difference based on a postcode. Louise Hedger, 7 Tasmania News.
Back home, a Tasmanian football club is preparing for the fight of its life at a crisis meeting tomorrow night. Plummeting player numbers have the Turners Beach Seagulls on the brink of folding, but a one-time call-up turned full-time coach hopes the club can live on. In footy season, this is where seagulls fly, but the coastal town of Turners Beach near Ulverston is at risk of losing half a century of history as a persistent player drain spirals to a critical low.
It just seems that we're in that situation where you'll lose players every year and then you've got to replace those before you can build your numbers up again.
Anthony Flack joined the club with his son in 2013. Since then, he's witnessed its steady, self-feeding decline to a point where only 15 players are signed up for this season.
Just recently, a lot of them have said, well, you know, we haven't got things sorted out yet, so they're going to start looking at other clubs.
Tomorrow night, rows of past players will be flies on the wall, listening in as a last-ditch effort is made to save the proud club, which saw its greatest glory with 6 premierships in the 70s and 80s. Merging with another club in the North Western Football Association is an option, but one Anthony won't be pushing for.
Merger's just a polite way of saying a club's folding, really.
North West Coast neighbour Natone was in this position last year. That club is still rebuilding playing stocks after spending 2019 in recess. Will Turners Beach buck the trend?
People who are on the committee that come in and do, you know, set the kitchen up on a Saturday, help on the gate, sell raffle tickets, all that sort of thing. It's very hard for them to see that, you know, the work they've put in has sort of been for nothing.
The meeting is open to the public at 7 o'clock tomorrow night at the Turners Beach Club Rooms. Tasmania has gone down to Victoria in the women's domestic one-day competition by 5 wickets. Nicola Carey was the standout in the batting lineup, knocking 73 from 86 balls. Holly Armitage and Meg Phillips had the Tigers in a promising position early on at the TCA ground, building a 70-run partnership. But the middle order struggled to have an impact, with the side all out for 198. Victoria reached its target with 4 overs to spare. Phillips would back up her batting performance, leading our bowling attack with 3 for 26. Tasmania plays Victoria again on Thursday.
Good evening. Cressy and Ouse top the table today with 26 degrees. Hobart 18, Launceston 25, Burnie 23 and Devonport 21. And after some rain overnight over the Highlands, the clouds stuck around the northeast today. Scottsdale just 2 millimetres, the best fall. Smithton, Friendly Beaches and Grove 22, Flinders Island 21, Lyowini 20, Strawn 19 and Low Head and St Helens 18 degrees. Scattered low cloud over us today, cleared from the northwest but hung around the northeast as mentioned. Now, cloud with a cold front and rapidly developing low over the Bight is moving quickly towards us, and isolated thunderstorms remain over the north of the country. Tomorrow, the front arrives late afternoon or evening. A high pressure ridge pushes over the Bight, another ridging up the eastern seaboard. Northwest to northeast winds at 20 to 30 knots over most waters, tending more northerly over the lakes. A strong wind warning from the northern tip of Flinders Island all the way down and around to Stanley, and also for the Central Plateau Lakes. Hobart tomorrow, late rain and 28 degrees, 29 with rain developing for Geeveston, rain also for Bothwell later and 26 degrees. Launceston 27 with rain developing, same for Devonport with 22, 27 for Cressy. Burnie, rain developing, 21 the high, 28 for Strawn, rain for Curry on King Island, 25 degrees, 25 for St Helens with late rain, Swansea 26, 25 for Orford, most of this rain later tomorrow. The UV, a high 10 for Strawn, but extreme elsewhere. On Thursday, rain easing to showers in the afternoon, fresh and gusty northwesterly winds, a few showers over the central north and west on Friday, easing in the afternoon, and on Saturday a few showers over the west and possibly northwest. Partly cloudy for Perth and Adelaide, both in the mid-20s tomorrow. 32 in Melbourne, that's ahead of a late cool change. Sunny and warm for Canberra and Sydney, a cloudy 34 in Brisbane. Hobart 16 and partly cloudy, Launceston 21 at the moment and 19 in Devonport. We are expecting a change in the weather, but still a very high fire danger for the southeast and the upper Derwent Valley. And when I said there's some change in the weather, Joe, don't go out tomorrow with your purse open again.
That's all from the team for now. Thanks so much for your company. We will see you a little bit later with updates.